We recently did a poll on both Instagram and YouTube asking you guys what you would like to see. Would it be MMA or BJJ? No-gi stuff primarily. And it was a good mix. I think on Instagram it was maybe by like 2 or 3 votes it came down to that MMA was the favorite. And on here, the poll was definitively MMA. So I'm gonna continue to do both to keep satisfying the viewership. But today we're gonna focus a little bit on MMA and ground and pound. We're going to talk about when we have the guy down in side control position and we find ourselves in a position where he starts to scramble up with an underhook. So whenever I feel like my opponent's starting to get an underhook on this side, we have a few options, right? We can work towards his head. So as he starts to come up, I can put an arm in place. Can you stay on your side for a second? Right. I can start to circle around him and create opportunities to go towards his back and flank him. Or I can move towards his legs. Those are typically the 2 options that we play with. So in this case, when I feel the guy start to build up with an underhook, I'm immediately going to place my knee inside of his thigh, and I'm going to keep my heel turned towards his knee. Guys, can you just keep it down, please?
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
I'm going to keep my knee inside of his thigh and my heel turned towards my midsection in this case. So now when he goes to move up and down and around and try to get out from under me, he's not able to do it. So the issue being here though is I don't have an underhook, right? That's still the problem. So when I feel like I don't have an underhook, I'm gonna start to put a crossface in place. This reverse crossface will force Pete flat onto his back, and then from here I can start to chuck hard shots with my right arm. So from here I look towards his legs, I bring my body weight up, I can throw big right hands, big elbows, but I always focus on keeping the frame in place. I don't give up the frame. And then from here we're gonna build and dig our elbow under so that we can now have a reinforced underhook on the far side, in which we can go and look to attack from here. And we'll build on it from this position. So when Pete starts to get an underhook, we have 2 options, one of which is obviously going towards his back. We can always flank around his head. The other option is to turn our knee towards his midsection and put in a phantom leg situation. So I'm not a big fan of placing my whole foot inside as a half guard position. So we like to give him the top leg, the top portion of my leg, and I keep my foot hooked here, just like so. So from this position, when we have our knee on the inside, I can then put a crossface in place. So what I don't want is him to remain on his side. I'll never get an underhook from here. So we have to get our elbow back. We have to put a reverse crossface in place, and then we can start to drive him flat. From here, you can throw short elbows, but when we want to use the big right hand or the big right elbow, we never move the left frame out of place. So as I start to chuck this big right shot, I keep my left hand in place so I can control the turning of his shoulder. So if I do this, and he eats the shot, now he's up with an underhook. He's essentially on my back, which we don't want. So we focus on keeping that reverse crossface in place. So even as I land shots, I'm able to then dig my elbow underneath his armpit, move my head up with my hand, and then from here we can put a traditional crossface in play and start to look for the next position we're gonna talk about. So in the context of MMA especially, but Jiu-Jitsu as well, when I feel like the guy's wily from this position and I wanna pin him, I could put a hook in place with my left foot, so I'm gonna put an added wedge over his knee, just like this. After that added wedge, I can then create a wide scope with my right leg, and I can post my right foot up like this. Now Pete is completely compromised. I want you to watch how I have both of his shoulders controlled, and I have both of his hips controlled. So he's in a completely compromised position. And now when he goes to connect his feet together, to close his guard, he's not able to because of the space in between his legs. I have my legs inside of his legs. And then from here, I can always start to do damage. If I want to put another reverse crossface in place and do damage from here, I can easily do damage from the top position. If I just want to control him and pass again, but this time with an underhook, I go foot over heel. I want you to take a shot of that, foot over heel. Now when he goes to try to close me into a 3/4 situation, my legs are no longer there to be found, and I can always start to drive him, get his legs going away from me, and pin him down in position. So let's talk about why we're doing all this, because the movements are cool, but why are we doing all this stuff? The bottom player got an underhook. I need to reclaim that underhook back on that far side. So in order for me to do that, there's a sequence of events that I'm taking, or I should say a sequence of movements that I'm taking that's slowly working me into an underhook position, okay? This is important. He got an underhook on me, all right? I didn't just cross-face him and look for the underhook. That's not gonna work at a high level. You're giving him too much space. So I gave you the option. You can flank him and go to his back, go to north-south, whatever it is, you can do that. Or right? You feel him start to build. I feel him start to build. I could put a knee in place, get my knees tight together, give him a phantom right leg, so we can't close his half guard up. And then from here, we put a reverse crossface in place and we start to roll his shoulders flat. From this position, we can chuck shots if it's MMA. If it's just jiu-jitsu, that's not a problem. We can just dig our elbow inside, get our elbow to his hip, and always, as we move our head up, we move our hand up, we move our hand in synchronicity with our head. Okay, so the crossface is not a possibility. Now here's the thing, can I just pass from this position? I can. I can just simply pass my leg out, okay? I could do that, okay? If I feel like he's pushing on my hip and I'm not able to turn it and pass effectively, I like to put a hook in place with my left foot. So I put that added wedge on top of his knee. I create a strong frame here and here, and now he's at my disposal. If it's MMA, we put the reverse crossface in, we do damage with shots. If it's not, we hold this position until he realizes he's completely out of place. I usually wait for him to start to move his arms around. When that hand moves, see what just happened with his right hand? Once that right hand leaves my hip, it's a wrap. I'm passing. Every single time. So there's a lot of micro stuff going on in there. Make sure you guys subscribe right here. Check out the Patreon, some stuff we put up there every week. But this is the concept. The concept is get your underhook back, free up your legs, but you got to be privy to what he's doing with his hands and his frames on bottom. I can't just try to pass when the guy's posting on my hip hard like this. But a lot of guys will break from this position, right? I'm here. He feels compromised here, right? And he's playing this position. I feel like, oh, he's fighting me maybe with a little less force. I'll be confident to pass, right? If I feel like he's pushing with all of his might on my hips, this is not the time to pass. This is the time to control, okay? But there's always options now where I can start to cross my feet and pass. If he turns that into a kind of elbow in kind of position with your right elbow, here and here, I make sure that I attach my knee to his hip on this near side, and then look what I have. If I'm not confident going to side control, I could easily walk my hand up, here and here. Pass to the mounted position. So the world is open from that position. I want to see more of my students, digital students and the students in the actual school, using this position as a means of passing from the half guard to either the mount or side control. So let me give you that little bonus one more time, because a lot of people don't know that transition. I'm in a position where I have the underhook, I have the wedge on top of his knee, and I have a posted right leg. Now notice, if you can bring it in for a second, this is micro stuff, but my left knee is inside of his elbow. See how this elbow is on the outside. I don't want scenarios where Pete can get his elbow inside of my knee. This is bad for me. I'm not gonna pass him here. I'm gonna wait till I can get here and here. And that's why I'm cognizant of it even from this point. If you notice, when he went here, look at my knees. I was conscious of this the whole time, right? The whole time. When I was doing this whole bit, look at my knee. My knee was always on the inside position. I never wanted to give him the chance to get his right elbow inside of my left knee. And now when I started to pass to side control, I'm giving you hypothetical situations, I don't feel confident dropping my hip because he's turning his elbow in against my knee. Maybe it's close to the inside, but he's just putting pressure on my left leg. So from here, look what I do. I slide my leg over. I flatten his hips out. I shin slap. And I'm in the perfect position now to go on the attack. From the top now on Pete. So that's a lot of content there to mull over. Uppercut. Make sure you guys subscribe. Check out the Patreon as always. Check out the website, StephenWilliamsOfficial.com, and really focus on those key concepts. Once again, we're talking about if the guy gets an underhook from bottom side control, oftentimes from side control, you don't have much control of your opponent's hips. So how do I get control of his hips? I move my body back to his hips, and I put a phantom leg in place, not a full half guard, a phantom leg that'll pin his hips in place. From a pin position, I can then start to work the upper body positions in place. Meaning, if he has an underhook, I put my knee above his thigh, I then cross face, now I start to work the upper body inside position. From upper body inside position, you can do whatever you want with your legs now, but you first have to get your upper body in play, and you have to get your lower body working in tandem, and then we can start to attack from there. So make sure you guys subscribe. I hope you enjoyed that. Check out the Patreon link. Thank you guys.